Stephen Speak, a podcast about everything and nothing. Don't forget to subscribe. Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak, and this is an extra special edition of Stephen Speak. So it's kind of like a bonus edition of the normal series on a particular subject for once. It's still not that planned, but at least I've picked a subject to talk about. And the subject today is something that's close to my heart. It's something that doesn't directly affect me, but indirectly affects me. And that subject is cystic fibrosis. My wife, I've probably mentioned in other episodes, I don't think I've really stated it properly. Like when I've said, I help her out and I do things for her and such things, as to why I do these things. But that's the reason. She has cystic fibrosis. Now, I understand that quite a lot of people don't know what cystic fibrosis is. I didn't know what it was, if I'm honest with you. When me and Sarah first got together, I didn't really have a Scooby-Doo, really, if I'm honest with you. But basically, what it is, it's something you're born with. It's genetic. It's basically a genetic disorder that affects the cells in the body from moving fluids and salts around properly, to be honest. That's literally the basics of it. But that tiny discrepancy in the genes can cause so many problems in the body. The main one that people probably recognise from cystic fibrosis, if they have heard about it or they've met someone with it, is people coughing and having mucus build up in the lungs and having lung problems. And they probably dismiss it as probably like bad asthma, because that's kind of what I did when I kind of seen it on TV. I just thought, well, it's just really bad asthma with mucus. And didn't really... I don't think I thought it was as serious as it actually is, really, and the complications of CF. But yeah, so my wife has it, and I'm going to just talk about what that means for her, and mainly, selfishly, what it means for me and anyone that lives with someone with CF or knows someone with CF or is a parent of someone with CF. Because I think if you know someone with a disease, you probably don't know it fully until you lived with them or you spent a long time in close proximity, as to the highs and lows and medications and all the things that CFers have to go through. And I'll probably use that term a lot. CFers, they kind of refer to themselves as that, or at least my wife does, at least anyway, and her circle of CF friends. But I'll kind of go back to like what it is and what it does and what it does, the symptoms of it, kind of thing, and kind of tell a bit of my wife's story, and then kind of say how we met and how it came to be how we are now. Okay, so obviously I've said that it's like a genetic disorder, and it causes all these terrible problems in the body. So the mucus is the big one that people know. So it clogs your lungs up, it stops you breathing properly, you can't take a deep breath, you have to cough the mucus up. That obviously, the mucus and stuff in your lungs, the body can't get rid of it, so it gets infected. So a lot of people with CF, they have infections quite regularly. A lot of them have allergens, such as Pseudomonas is one that my wife has. And yeah, it just exacerbates the condition. But the mucus also affects the internal organs, so their organs can get covered in the mucus. So the pancreas is probably one of the main ones that gets affected, which then causes diabetes. So it's like a cystic fibrosis induced diabetes, which I think a lot of people with diabetes, cystic fibrosis, have this type of diabetes, or at least develop it at some point. Strangely enough, it's quite a varied disease. So some people can have it very, very severely from a young age, because there's very varying degrees. I'm not an expert on this, so don't quote me on it. Go off to the Cystic Fibrosis Trust or the NHS website and find the information for yourself if you really want to research. I probably should be more knowledgeable than I am, actually, but I'm not, and I've not done any research prior to doing this, because I want it to be true to what I know and what my experience is. I don't want to come back with loads of facts and figures. But where was I? Yes, so it affects your bodily organs. So yeah, the pancreas, and then it affects your digestion as well. So every time my wife eats, she has to take some tablets to help her digest the food, called Creon, and they come in different strengths. And she has to take additional vitamins and mineral supplements because she can't absorb the food properly. So even though she takes these enzymes, she still might not be able to absorb the stuff properly, and she needs a higher calorie intake anyway. So there's all these things, like you can see already, like there's a lot of stuff going on. And then she's got daily medications to take. And I can't remember. I did count how many tablets she has to take. I've got them written down on my phone. Maybe this is something I probably should have looked at, but it's got to be like 20 odd tablets a day that she takes, like just out of course. Like that's what she has to take daily. Like she has like a calcitude, so it's like your vitamin C, and she has to take iron supplements, and it's mad. Like seeing her medication arrive is quite shocking. I think any medical professional, I think that would see her prescription would be like, wow, that's a lot of medication. And then obviously she's got her diabetes to medicate as well. So she has she had a long acting one, a short acting one for when she eats, and that can be an absolute minefield for her to maintain. And it's just all these things that throughout the day she's got to manage, and certain pills can't be taken with other pills, and then she's got to take a Creon when she eats as well. Yeah, it's mad. I don't think I can't take an inhaler or a vitamin pill or my antihistamine regularly when I've got hay fever. I would be buggered if I had something as serious as cystic fibrosis or anything, because I just can't do it, and it's a full-time job for her most of the time, just to manage a medication. So I'll go back and take you back to when Sarah was born. So she was an 80s child, like myself, and at the time they didn't do any tests really for cystic fibrosis. Well, they didn't do any tests. Like, they only tested if they thought it was necessary. So nowadays they do a heel prick test. So they test for they can do a sweat test, so they can swab the baby and check for additional salts and stuff, and they can do a heel prick test, which it actually tests for CF. But back in the day, they didn't do that. They didn't do anything like that. It was just your baby was born and it's healthy until proven otherwise. And Sarah was I think she was 4 or 5 years old when she was actually diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, and it was quite stressful and quite traumatic for a mum and a dad to go through it. More for a mum because the parents were separated, and Sarah lived with a mum. But Sarah was constantly hungry as a baby. Constantly hungry as a toddler. She's constantly hungry now, actually. I'm not going to lie to you. But that's a sign of CF, and she had a bit of a distended stomach from the digestion stuff that CF brings, and she bruised really easily, and I must admit, like, her mum took her to the doctors, and I think they questioned whether she was abused, like, are you not feeding your child, and why she covered in bruises. But like, Sarah would actually literally bruise if her mum picked her up, which must be distressing as a parent, especially when the healthcare team isn't really listening into you and kind of accusing you of abuse. I mean, that's quite traumatic. But luckily, and thankfully, they one of the healthcare professionals, I think it was a doctor, I'm not sure, basically decided to do a test, and it proved that Sarah did indeed have something underlying, and it was cystic fibrosis. Kind of probably a bittersweet diagnosis, really, because at least you've got an answer for why my daughter's bruising so easily and is hungry all the time and has a bloated stomach. And thank God I now know what's going on. But the flip side of that is, well, now she's been diagnosed with this horrible genetic disease, which has massive ramifications to her future. And I think the biggest part of that would be life expectancy. Now, I knew Sarah before we got married and before we became a couple. We were friends for about 18 months, and then we kind of lost contact. You kind of lose touch with people, kind of other relationships get in the way. And then we kind of came back together probably about 5 or 6 years later. And then, the rest is history, as they say. But even when I knew Sarah and I knew she had CF, I didn't really know the ins and outs of it. and I thought I did. So when she said, "Oh, I've got CF," or do you know what that is? And I was kind of like, "Yeah, I don't know what that is." I didn't. Anyway, life expectancy is one of the major things of this, and to hear that probably as a parent, when Sarah's mum was told, your daughter's, probably not going to get past like 20, 25, 30 at the most, is I can't even imagine that, to be honest. I mean, that must have been the most horrendous bombshell. From going to probably kind of like relief to hear that, oh, well, it's not me abusing my child. Like, it's not me doing something wrong. To the flip side of that, and hearing all the kind of negatives things that go with CF and life expectancy, I think is a major one. It's we're all obviously not immortal, and we're all gonna die at some point. And I think it's probably in the back of most people's heads at some point where you think, "Oh, I wonder when my time's gonna be." But it's not something we really think about, and until you're probably told your time is up, or someone puts a finite amount of time on that. Yeah, I don't know how I'd react to that. I mean, I'm quite okay, I think, with death. I don't want to die yet, but I'm kind of okay that the fact that I will die at some point. But the fact that I know someone else will die is harder for me to acknowledge. And the whole life expectancy thing was the first thing. It was the elephant in the room that I think I didn't fully appreciate. But the night that me and Sarah kind of got together, we had a kiss in a club. Or club, it was a pub really, with a dance floor. Sounds very romantic. But we were on a night out, and we met up in a pub, and sparks flew, let's say. And she couldn't get enough of me, and she had to kiss me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm irresistible, and the rest is history. From that point on, it was just amazing from that point on. And the very next day, I think she felt a bit awkward, and I think I felt a bit awkward. I was like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? We've been friends before, or are we gonna carry this on? I'd like to," kind of thing. And we went for a coffee. We drove to a little lake near where we live, and we sat and drank the coffee, and we had probably the most frank conversation before actually saying, "Yes, we're gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend," kind of thing, that I've ever had with anyone. And it was kind of refreshing, because we never do that. We never do that in this world. We never just start out with all our cards on the table. We learn about each other bit by bit, and then suddenly we might learn something we don't like or get surprised about, and then that thing that shatters our world a little bit, and you think, "Oh, can I trust them?" or "What's going on here?" But it was a hard conversation, but not as hard as you might think, weirdly. So basically, we're sat in the car, and we're looking out, and we've got the windows open. It was a nice sunny day. It was like the end of March, I think it was, like the third week of March. And yeah, she's a bit coy, and she's like, "Oh no," and then she just comes out of there, and she just says, "Listen, if we're going to be together, there's certain things you need to know. I've got cystic fibrosis. It's quite bad," and she'd not long been recovering from some severe lung operations where she'd been suffering with like holes in her lungs, at the top of her lungs, like collapsed lungs, and she'd had a couple of operations, one on each side, slightly different operations, but for the same kind of purpose, and it was basically to keep her lungs stuck to the inside of her chest, which is, I'm not going to describe what she had done, but it was horrendous sounding. It sounded like the NHS tortured her, to be honest, but it served a purpose, and it is hopefully stopping her lungs collapsing in the future. It seems to have done a good job so far, at least. And she wasn't very well at the time, so that's where I'm coming from. She was probably at this point one of the most ill she'd been in her life. And she basically said to me, "Listen, I don't know how long I'll be alive for. If we get together, there's certain things you must know. If we commit to this, you're committing to me, and a short time together potentially." And at the time, we were both like I think 31 and 33, 30 and 32, 30. About that. There's about 2 years between us, and we were both in like early 30s. And initially I was thinking, holy crap, like, this is heavy. Like, it was a very, like, Marty McFly moment. Oh, this is heavy, Doc. But I just knew, like, it just in my bones, and it gets me emotional thinking of it. Like, that didn't matter. Like, it just seriously didn't matter to me. Like, I want to be with you, and screw this disease. Like, if we get 10 years together, it'll be the best goddamn 10 years anyone's ever had, ever. And I think I said something like that to her. Maybe not as poetic as that. I probably just went, fuck CF, let's get together. Excuse my French, but yeah, I think for me, that's just what sums us up as a couple, really, is our frankness with each other about the terrible stuff and the sad stuff and the serious stuff in our lives. We get through it and we support each other. And I'll come on to that a bit later if I remember. But yeah, so that was how we got together. It's like, and obviously that progressed a little bit. We knew, I think we knew within the first couple of weeks we were going to be with each other. We were going to marry and have kids, and that's what we wanted. We knew we were like meant to be. And it's weird that when we were friends, like prior to like romantic stuff, that this would happen. Because when we used to go for coffee and stuff as friends, like it all came about. Like we met. I used to go in the body shop, and she used to work in the body shop. So I used to go in the body shop and buy random gifts for people, and I'd stock up and stuff. Because always body shop stuff's always good to have in the cupboard. Not a sponsor, by the way. It's always good to have in the cupboard. If there's a birthday present, birthday time, Christmas, something good happens, just to throw. If my mum visited, I could go in the cupboard and get loads of nice stuff out. So I used to go in. Sorry for anyone that's ever had a body shop gift off me, but I'd go in and buy, like, when they were on sale, and I'd go and spend quite a lot of money, like, a few times a year, and I'd go in every so often and get some stuff, and I used to buy some of the products myself, and that's where I met Sarah, basically. And she was the manager in there, and we'd chat away and stuff, and I'd seen her on a night out one night, and I wouldn't embarrass her with a full story, because it's quite hilarious and a bit stalkerish, to be honest. But what they used to do is they used to make stories up about people who used to come in the shops. Like, they'd be, oh, I wonder what their life's like. And they'd made a story up about me because I used to come in quite regularly. And then I did a charity ride on my motorbike, and I was advertising it on the square where I live in the town centre. And that was for the Royal British Legion, so I was raising money for them. And the idea was I was going to ride around the whole country on my motorbike, do all the furthest compass points of Britain on my motorbike in 5 days, which is quite a lot, over 500 miles a day. And she was quite inspired by, like, my dedication to it and the planning of it and all that. And so she kind of got talking to me on the square one day when I was like advertising it and collecting money, and I think my brother was doing face painting and stuff like that. And I just said to her, well, if you want to hear more about it, like, we'll go for a coffee or something one day. And yeah, we did. And we started going for, like, regular coffees, because I'm a coffee freak. I have been for a while. It's probably really bad for me, but I used to pop into town on the way to work and grab a coffee. And it was kind of a social thing, meet people on the way and grab a brew before work and stuff. And yeah, it was just a nice thing for me to do. So arranging that with Sarah was a no-brainer, really. And yeah, it was kind of nice to have, like, a female friend. Because I've got a few female friends in my life, especially when I was at college and stuff. And I've had one that's always been with me, my friend Louise. She's always been in the background constantly, good, reliable, lifelong friend. But she has her own life and she's got kids and stuff, so we don't see each other as much as possible. So it was kind of nice to have, like, this new female friend that I could see in between times. And I did have a girlfriend at the time. There was nothing in it, and, like, I'm quite I'm very, very, very monogamous. I wouldn't cheat or anything like that, and it was literally platonic. It was like, oh, this is an interesting person. She thought I was interesting. Let's go for a brew, and we did that for about a year and a bit, and then things happen. I think it was a bit of jealousy from my partner and her partner maybe, and it just didn't feel right. Maybe going for coffee, but there was nothing there, and I think that was the pureness of it that. I weirdly found Sarah attractive, but my brain was, oh, you're pretty. But that's where it stops with me. I don't go further than that. But it was nice to have that historic, we were friends first thing. Um, but when we actually got together, I saw everything she was going through, and this woman like that was before me was even more incredible because she puts on this persona of it's not even a persona. That's just who she is. She just is okay with herself. She's accepting of herself, and she's accepting of her illness, and she just plows on. And like many people with CF do, they accept and just struggle through, really, and the thing with Sarah, it was a very, very private thing for her, and it still is to a degree. Like her doing her treatments and nebulizers and coughing up sputum, which sounds terrible, and it isn't pleasant. But she'd never done that in front of anyone ever. But she did it in front. I was the lucky one. She started doing it in front of me, and weirdly, that is kind of an honor when someone is that relaxed with you that they will do them things that they've never done in front of anyone else, and that she's not. I wouldn't say she's embarrassed about it, but it's just not pleasant, is it? And that was like her private bit, like I CF's mine kind of thing. I think, as I would describe it, she might say it differently, but it was kind of like, this is my illness, and I'm going to keep it to myself. This is my little procedure I do, and yeah, and I think even when we got together, even though that massive conversation we had when we first got together, I still don't think I was. I still don't think I was like 100%, because she seemed fine still, even though she said she was quite ill. She seemed quite well in some sense. She had she had a bad cough and stuff, and she'd get out of breath. But I don't think I saw it as bad as it was. Quite an optimistic person. And we got together, and I think it was about 2 months later, she got quite a bad chest infection, and she had to go into hospital. So this is where the privacy thing comes in, because she describes hospital as kind of like a place where she goes, she just needs to focus on her illness, get well, and come back out again. And she kind of like puts herself into a bubble. So it's just like literally focus on me, get myself well, get out. Hospital isn't where I want to be. I don't need visitors. I don't need you to come. And her hospital where she goes to, her clinic is in Liverpool. So it's a good, like, nearly 40 miles away from where we live. So it's a good round trip. And let's face it, hospitals aren't the most fun places, and you have to fit it around their schedule and work and such things. So, like, literally when she went in hospital, I was kind of terrified. It kind of scared me to see how quickly she went from kind of being okay, like obviously a little bit coffee and that's CF kind of thing, but to like being in hospital, attached to machinery, being on oxygen, having a driver in, giving her meds, and her being quite cold towards me. I mean, I actually thought she was going to break up with me, to be honest. I was just like, well, she actually hates me, and that's it, is it? I've just annoyed her, and I've put her in hospital, and that's it. And but that was just her defense mechanism. That's just how she is, and I think she saw in my face one night that how kind of shocked and upset I was that she was being so cold. And she said, "Listen, it's nothing against you. This is just how I am. I'm like that with my mum, like that with my brother, and my best friends. Like, I really don't care if you visit me or not. I just have to segregate myself away and not think about it. So you kind of go off and do what you want and text me or phone me, but you don't have to drive over and see me because it's pointless." And you can hear the logic in that. I'm quite a logical thinker as well, but it still was like, I want to see you. Like, you're my girlfriend, and I love you, and you're in hospital, and I need to be with you. And it's quite kind of hard to be that. But I also have been in hospital myself and kind of also see the flip side. So I was kind of like, right, but to go home, and I lived alone, obviously we didn't live together at the time, but to go home and know she's in hospital, quite ill, it was hard. And being so far away as well, like, it's not like I could just go down the road to the hospital. It's in my town. She was like 40 odd miles away. So, yeah, it was a difficult time, and I kind of that snaps me a little bit. And I did a little bit of Googling and a bit of research. And I did a little bit when we got together, just like went on the Cystic Fibrosis Trust website just to see and saw like the average life expectancy, and it wasn't to like scare me or anything like that. I think it was just to read it and to absorb it a little bit and just confirm it from a different source. But yeah, so that's kind of how we got together, and and yeah, and a bit of background about us. But we've been together now. I think 6 years now. This year, just over 6 years. So, I proposed to her after 6 months. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to get her in the bag and make her mine. I knew she was a keeper, and we got married in November 2018 in Northern Ireland in Belfast, which is our spirit animal place to live. We both love it there. It's where my mum's from, and yeah, it was an amazing day and an emotional day because for me, because I've always wanted to marry my dream girl, which I did and I have. So, bucket list ticked off there. But I think for Sarah and her family, it's like they never imagined her kind of living long enough to get married, or even maybe getting married. And I think for Sarah, it was kind of like a big deal, as in this is a life event that I never expected to go through. And yeah, that's kind of sobering, that thought that that could be in someone's brain. Because I think, with relationships or anything, I think you think, oh, we'll ever find the one and blah, blah, blah. But you can hold that optimism because you think, well, I've got plenty of time to find someone. But obviously in someone that could be life limited, that in the back of the head is like, well, if I don't find someone soon, then that's curtains, isn't it, And, yeah, again, it's a sobering thought, but it was an emotional, but it was a fun, just wonderful, beautiful day. And yeah, and the journey we're on now is IVF, because we were trying for a baby pretty much as soon as we got together. And I know that sounds a bit odd, but when you know, if anyone out there has been in like proper deep love with someone and they know it's the soulmate, like you just know. So yeah, we were pretty much trying for a baby like straight away, or not stopping the potential baby having, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so unfortunately, it appears that for whatever reason, we don't really know, that the baby doesn't seem to be appearing as yet. So we're going through IVF, and the presumption is that it may be like it may be a CF thing that's making Sarah infertile. It could just be bad luck. Either way, that's our next journey, is trying to have a baby, which is, again, another life event that Sarah never thought she'd have the opportunity or be well enough to. So, it's quite astounding. And on the old wellness side, is, I suppose I should mention the miracle drug that she's on, and she got given through compassionate use at first, because her lung function was so low, and she'd never really heard of it, and one of her friends, Cleo, had heard of it, and when she mentioned it, she was like, oh my god, you need to phone them back and get on that, because that's a big deal. Google what it's doing in America, kind of thing. And I'd never really heard of it, and I started Googling, and I was like, oh, this seems quite promising. And basically what the drug does, I can never remember which one it's called now. I think it was called Trikafta initially, but when it got the green light in the UK, I think they had to call it Kaftrio, or the other way around. I get confused. Anyway, the drug basically, I want to say cures in quotation marks, but it basically tackles the fluid exchange in cells, basically. So it tackles the root cause of the genetic defect in certain genomes of CF. So the drug won't help all people that have CF, but for certain common denominators of their genome that they have defective, then it will. So it can help a lot of people, or improve a lot of people. And that has been a game changer, not just for Sarah, but for a lot of people. I mean, Sarah's lung function went down to like 20% at one point. I think the lowest it was about 26%, 27% when she was really, really ill at one point. and we still have home oxygen now for her, but she was bad. Like, she couldn't walk too much of a distance without requiring her oxygen on constantly. We were taking it on holiday with us, and it was bad times. I think that's one of the times where it became real to me, and I was thinking, crumbs, like, this is serious. And I was, I think, partly thinking, like, what do I do if this goes bad? And thinking about funerals and funeral arrangements and different things like that. Thinking, I had Googled a couple of times, what to do when someone dies, or just in case we needed to make any arrangements. I didn't. And Sarah probably doesn't even know this. I don't even think I've told this, but I Googled that just to kind of cover myself, because I like to be planned. And I like to know what's going on, and I thought it was potentially getting to that bit. I thought this might be the downward spiral, so to speak, that we knew might be coming at some point in her life. But it wasn't, so hooray! Take off that serious edge there. That's the thing. When you live with someone with CF, that's always in the back of your mind. They cough or they do something, and you're like, "You're right, you okay?" And I tried to do a lot of stuff for her, especially when she was ill. Like, now she's a lot better on the drug. Like, I kind of feel a bit defunct in some part, but I did a lot for her. Like, I'd come home from work and make food and fetch and carry for her, and if we were going anywhere, like, she couldn't really carry anything. Like, she could barely carry her own oxygen sometimes, so I was like carrying all the stuff with her oxygen and carrying her handbag for her, which suited me very well. I must admit, I can carry a handbag off. I think I've got the stature for a handbag carrier, so I don't mind that. And yeah, it was just a dark time, and I think as a partner of someone, excuse me, I'm snuffling. I think as a partner of someone with CF, it can be a kind of a lonely place, because even though there's lots of people out there and like there's resources and to contact people, it's making that connection with someone. It's making the effort to connect with someone. And as a man, it's harder to do as well. I mean, a lot of people go, "Oh, yeah, men can, men have emotion." They do have emotion, but men are inherently, they like. I certainly like to just sort stuff on my own head. Like, and I'm not a Googler. I won't Google everything. Like, I just think I try and just put everything into a logical box, and that calms me. So by the time I've done that, like, I don't feel like I need to speak to someone. But for me, it would be nice to have that. What do you do, or how do you feel? I just want someone to talk at me rather than me share my experience, kind of thing, or me talk it out. So I don't feel the need to have counselling, but I'd like to hear someone else's side of the story. So, by all means, if anyone has a CF partner or is in close proximity to someone with CF and wants to reach out, then by all means do, because I think it'd be lovely to speak to you, even be a guest on the podcast. But yeah, I think it can be quite lonely. It can be quite a dark place sometimes. I've had some quite vivid dreams of Sarah dying, which puts you into a right funk when you wake up. Just because your brain has to put these things in order, I think. And anyway, yeah, going back to the drug, that's kind of like it's been put back a bit now, back in my mind. These new drugs have just revolutionised the way CF's treated. Sarah herself, as I say, she was quite low on the lung function at one point, and she managed to get back up into like the 30s and stuff like that. But it was still pretty bad. Like, having a third of your lung function is bad. Like, everyone knows, like, you get a cold and stuff, and you're struggling to breathe, you still have full lung capacity technically. Yeah, and I don't even know what that's like. I couldn't even imagine that, and it's terrible to think. But she was on. She was getting better, and her lung function was slowly rising. And she got the drugs, and she started them, and within hours, like literally hours, there was a change in her. Like, in some more sputum talk, so brace yourself. they were calling it the purge. So on the websites from people in America or anyone that was on these triple therapy medications, as they call them, they found that they were getting a lot of stuff off the chest, literally, and they were calling it the purge. And Sarah didn't have like a massive one, but she probably coughed up stuff easier than she's ever done in her life. Because the problem with CF, the mucus that they have is super thick. It's like chewing gum sometimes. It's super thick. The sputum is just, it's ridiculous. And it was just kind of like liquid. And she's never had that. And that was like bizarre. And one of the things I vividly remember is, obviously I fetched and carried for her all the time. So if there was something upstairs, I'd be like, I'll go get it, you stay there. Because for her to go upstairs and back down again, she'd be super out of breath. And the whole tiredness thing with people with CF, like, that going up and downstairs a couple of times would maybe stop her doing something later on in the day because she'd be tired from it. And that sounds ridiculous, but that's the reality of it. So I used to do stuff like that, and to be fair, I've put weight on, actually, so my weight gain is her fault, because I don't do stuff like that anymore, because she goes and does it herself. But anyway, she'd take these tablets, and it was a few hours later, and I can't remember what she said she wanted from upstairs, and I was like, well, I'll go get it, and she was like, no, I feel alright, I'm going to go get it, and I was like, oh, okay then. And she ran up the stairs, jogged kind of thing, and then kind of fast walked, kind of jogged down the stairs and walked back into the living room and sat down. And I was like, what are you doing? And she wasn't out of breath, maybe slightly, but nowhere near that she'll be. Like, if she'd have done that prior to that medication, she'd have probably had to get her oxygen out. And she'd kind of skipped up the stairs and back down again, and with minimal effect, and it was that was kind of an emotional moment, because I was just like, that's amazing, what the hell, it's been 5 hours, so, and I'm not going to say that she's better, because she isn't, don't get me wrong, her lung function is hovers around 40, late 40s to 50%, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was prior to the drug. And, she still gets infections, and she still gets tired, and numerous other things. She still has to take all her other medications. I forgot about before when I mentioned medications. She has, nebulizers to do 3 times a day. Multiple nebulizers in each session as well. So, she still has all these things to do, but this drug is an extra one, which has a massive, massive impact. And hats off to the people that produced that. And the scientists that worked on that medication. I'm sure they're reaping the rewards monetary-wise, but the impact on people's lives is for me, is not tangible. You can't put a price on that. Okay, so what is it like to live with someone with CF? A struggle at times, if I'm honest with you. It's not just Sarah's personality. I think most CF people are quite sure of themselves, and they can be bullshit arses. And I think because of their illness, they don't have time to mess around. They don't have time for people's bull. They don't have time to, just beat around the bush, really. They just want to get on with stuff. They want to sort themselves out and live as much of a normal life as they can. So Sarah is the most gentle, kind person you'll know, but don't get on the wrong side of her, because wow. she just knows herself. She just knows her own mind, and that's a beautiful thing in itself. And yeah, but in general, people with CF they're a bit up and down. So I would say a day in the life of me and Sarah is sorting medication out, so I'll help her out. I think I've less so since that she's been on the new meds, and maybe neglected her a little bit, because I feel like she's kind of leave me alone a little bit, but she also wants a little bit of help. So it's kind of hard to get that balance now, because before I used to just do everything without being asked, but now she has to ask me sometimes, which I feel bad about, because I'm just thinking, well, you tell me not to do it, but then I need to do it as well. So what do I do? I don't really know. So we're trying to work on that at the moment. But yeah, it used to be the day in the life of us. Like, I'd get up and sort her nebs out, so have them waiting for her, or even bring her back to bed for her, sort her a snack out. Just them little things. Sometimes even put her clothes out. Sometimes if I was off and she was getting dressed, I'd sometimes help her to get dressed because that's how bad she was. Sometimes I'd help her get undressed, dressed. Do the washing. And don't get me wrong, she did do stuff. She wasn't completely lazy, but she would help out where she could. But I was just so willing to help that I just kind of did everything. And we also think that was like to the detriment of her a little bit as well, because she got so used to that she wouldn't do stuff, and that was kind of a vicious cycle for her, because that little bit of exercise she would do going up the stairs to get some washing, I was kind of taken away from her. So weirdly backwards, but now it's the other way around. Like, I'm not doing as much for her, and then she's doing a bit too much, and it's making her tired. So again, we're trying to find that balance, the other side of it. And it's difficult actually, because she does seem a lot better and she seems a lot more healthy and able. Like, it's hard to kind of step in all the time, or I try and step in at the wrong time when she's actually like, no, I'm fine, what are you doing, leave me alone. And it doesn't take away that she's still got CF, obviously, but yeah, so I would do stuff like that. I mean, one of the best examples of how exhausting for me it was is when we were doing the house we live in now. When we were doing it up, we literally I did a lot of the work because Sarah was unable to, even though I know that really annoyed her because she really wanted to help, but with the dust and stuff in the house, we couldn't risk it. But basically, I was in the house, so I was doing 12-hour shifts at work. I work on the railway, so I was doing shift work. So I was doing a 12-hour shift at work, come into the house, our new house, like doing building work, knocking walls down, working or painting, whatever it was, like clearing rubble up, doing stuff in the garden for 2-3 hours. And then I'd go and eat something, watch some telly for a bit, speak to Sarah, go bed. And that I did that for weeks. And it was tiring. It was rewarding, don't get me wrong, but I was still doing all the stuff for Sarah at the same time. So I was getting her stuff in the morning, setting her clothes out, doing little bits, these little things that really help her. I just the matter of her just getting the nebs out for her, and or putting her tablets out for her, or like, doesn't seem like a lot, but for her, the effort to get off the bed and reach and go and get a tablet box if she woke up and felt crap was a big thing for her. So I tried to do that as much as I could. And then obviously going to work myself, and if my job at the time, I could either have a super busy day or quite easy. So you're always hoping for an easier day. So I had energy for after work, and then I'd come and make tea and whatnot. And yeah, it was a challenging time for me. It paid off because we have a lovely house now, and it's all been completed. But that side of it, I think people don't see, and I'm not very kind to myself, and I just plod on. Yeah, but there's all them things that affect the partner of someone, and yeah, it can be challenging, the fact that sometimes I just want to sit down, and it's the guilt, I think, attached to that, because sometimes you do just think, God, I just want to rest. Like, I wish someone would do that for me. And she does. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, she's the best. But when she's ill, there isn't anyone to do it for me. And it's just me and her. So I'm doing it for me. And so what I would do to combat this a lot of the time, what Sarah would help me with, she'd be like, right, set me up. Like, sit me down somewhere. So she'd sit in the living room, on a chair, on the recliner. And I was surrounded with things, so I'd be like, right, what could you possibly need in the next hour and a half while I go and just have time playing on my Xbox, doing Lego, having a bath, fiddling in the garage, whatever. And I would literally surround her with like a medication, some snacks, drinks, magazines, anything she would possibly need in an hour, apart from a toilet. Obviously, she'd have to sort that out herself, but I would just surround her with stuff and just leave her and be like, right, text me if you need anything. And that's how we managed it, because that's how you have to do stuff sometimes. And there's never no resentment there. Like, she helps me. I kind of feel like I help her with the physical stuff that she's unable to, and some of the challenging stuff, and some mental stuff. I try and help her, mentally as well where I can, and provide that support. But she's more my mental coach, so I'm like kind of like her strength physically, and she's kind of my mental strength back, and it works for us. We're a good team, and yeah, we were just meant to be. And CF, even though it's a massive part of our lives, doesn't rule our lives. It always has to be something we consider. We can't just up and go away somewhere because of all the meds. There's a lot of organisation with that. And when people say to us, "Oh, when you have a baby, you'll not just be able to up and go out," I'm like, well, we're like that now, so it's not really going to change anything. I know obviously a baby's a little bit different, but yeah, the amount of stuff we have to organise is incredible sometimes. But yeah, we've got used to that, and that's just our life. But the things behind closed doors that people don't see are the serious conversations and the daily struggle that Sarah goes through, and the things that I don't show is the daily struggle that I go through, helping Sarah and vice versa. And I'm very lucky that she's the way she is. And I think she's lucky for the way I am. I think I'm quite chilled and caring, and yeah, I think we learn a lot from each other, and I wouldn't change anything. If someone said to me, it sounds strange, but if someone said to me like, would you cure her CF? I obviously would want to, but I wouldn't want to change who she is fundamentally, and I don't think she would. Like, I don't think she would. She's always said to me that CF's made her the way she is. And maybe if we could cure her and keep her the way she is, maybe that'd be a thing. But at the moment, I think she's quite content with how things are. As long as we get a baby soon, that's the big thing we need. We need a baby in our lives. Yeah, it's a big subject, CF, and I might do another one. I don't even know how coherent this podcast is. You get what you get with me. Everything and nothing. But that's a bit of an insight into CF and Stephen and Sarah, and how kind of we deal with it a little bit. And I hope it was coherent, because it's an important subject. It's not just affecting me and Sarah; it affects a lot of people. I think it's the biggest genetic disease in Britain. It affects a lot of people. And since being with Sarah, I think I've realised how many people kind of know someone with CF. Maybe they don't know fully what it means, but they'll know someone like, oh yeah, someone at school had that, or someone said they had that, and I don't know what it really is. And yeah, I'd like to think that I'm a little bit of an ambassador for it, the fact that I've kind of lived it through Sarah a little bit, and seen the other side of the coin, let's say. But if you do need any assistance with cystic fibrosis, I'll put some links down in the description for the CF Trust and an NHS website, and obviously don't forget to follow me, because I think I might do another podcast on this in the future. So, and if you have any questions, just send them through to me. You can follow me. All the links are in the description. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok now as well, and Facebook and Twitter. So, contact me. And if you'd like to do a collab, if you've got some input and you think, you know what, I think we could, we could work together, then, get in contact. I think I'd love to do another one of these. I might listen to this back and see actually what I've got unanswered and address them bits, because what my brain's like, it does go off in a bit of a whirlwind. It's why you listen to me, hopefully. But it's all honest. It comes from the heart. This is what Stephen speaks about. And CF's a massive thing in my life. It's a massive thing for Sarah, and I just wanted to chat to you about it. And the main reason is this week is wear yellow for CF. So on Friday, 17th of June, wear yellow for CF. If you've got some spare cash, donate some money to the CF Trust. They're constantly fighting to get that life-saving treatment available to everyone. They're constantly pushing for rights for people with CF. Because obviously it is a disability as well. Some people just can't work. I mean, we're quite lucky that Sarah has has managed to get back to work now, if only part-time. And, it affects people in so many different ways, and the CF Trust are always fighting for different rights and treatments and mental well-being. There is also a CF podcast, See For Yourself, so go and check that out. The first guest on the show is my beautiful wife, Sarah, which is amazing. A very proud moment for both of us that she was chosen to be the first guest on the podcast. It's hosted by Lucy Baxter, who has her own podcast from a Lancashire lass. So check her podcast out as well. She's ace. And yes, until next time, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. You've been listening to Stephen Speak Podcast. I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button.